Hello everyone and welcome to the DataNinja channel. DataNinja here, and today we are tackling a topic that is crucial for any serious Python developer working with relational databases, database migrations. Specifically, we are going to dive deep into how to master your database schema changes using the powerful combination of Alembic and SQLAlchemy. If you ever built an application, big or small, you know that your database schema isn't static. It evolves. You add tables, you add columns, you change data types. And managing these changes gracefully across different environments, development machines, staging, production, can be a real headache. That's where database migration tools come in, and for Python, Alembic is the gold standard when you are using SQLAlchemy. So, what exactly are we going to cover today? We'll start with the basics, setting up Alembic in an existing SQLAlchemy project. Then, we'll walk through creating our first migration, applying it, and even reverting it. We'll explore how Alembic detects schema changes and how to handle manual adjustments. By the end of this video, you will have solid understanding how to incorporate Alembic into your workflow and keep your database in sync with your code. Let's get straight into the code. For this tutorial, I have set up a very basic project. All you really need are SQLAlchemy and Alembic installed. You can do that with pip. Pip install SQLAlchemy Alembic. For the newer versions of Alembic, you don't need to install SQLAlchemy, as it is a direct dependency of Alembic already. First, I'm going to create a virtual environment and install Alembic in it. Alright. For this demonstration, I have created a simple database py file where I've defined our base for declarative models and set up a basic SQLite database connection and an insert py, which will insert, as the name suggests, some data into our database. Nothing fancy, just enough to get us started. The database py is very simple. I just import a couple of things which I need for SQLAlchemy. I define the SQLAlchemy database URL. I create an engine, a session locale, which will help us to interact with the database. I'm creating a declarative base model, and the user table only contains a couple of rows. Let me just uncomment it, because later I'm going to use it for something else. And the user table only contains ID, name, and email. And as you see here is the magic if name main line, which basically says, if you execute this file directly, please create all the tables. Okay, so let's execute it. As you see, here is the test DB, which was created by this line. When I open the table in DB-ever, the database has only one column, the database has only one table, and it has the appropriate columns. All right, let's go to the Alembic part. First, let me remove this test DB file and comment out or remove this part, because we won't need it anymore. To start using Alembic, you will first need to set it up in your project. Just open your terminal, go to your project's main directory, and run Alembic init migrations. When I use this command, Alembic creates a new project, and I've chosen to put it into a folder named Migrations. You often see people use Alembic for this folder, but Migrations just sounds more intuitive for me. The Migrations directory contains all the configuration files and future migration scripts. The most important files here are alembic.ini, or main configuration file, and env.py, which tells Alembic how to interact with your database models. We need to make a couple of quick edits. Just go to the Alembic ini and search for SQLAlchemy URL. Actually, we need to replace this line from our database py. Alright, that is the first change. And the second one, you have to go to the env.py, and I have to import the base from database. And I have to search for target metadata. And as it suggests, I have to change it to base metadata. Now we are ready to create our first migration. Open your terminal again and just use Alembic Autogenerate feature. Type Alembic revision -m, create initial user table --autogenerate. Once you execute it, it tells you that in migration versions folder, it created migration for us. Let's check it out. This file contains an upgrade and a downgrade function. If you look at the upgrade function, you will see the SQLAlchemy statements that Alembic generated to create our users table based on our user model. The downgrade function contains the inverse operations to revert the changes. Wow. So let's execute this migration. Alembic upgrade head. Okay, and as you see, if we go to dbehavior and check the users table and I refresh it, I have the same columns. Now let's go to the database file and add a new column. For that, I will need to generate a new Alembic migration. Just type Alembic revision add password to user. And also the --autogenerate. When you execute this command, you see we have a new migration here. And as you see, it has one operation called add column to users, the password, and the downgrade will revert it, dropping by the column. All right, let's apply the new migration. Again, Alembic upgrade head, and check it in the database. As you see, Alembic generated the Alembic version table, which only contains one single column, which will keep track of the last migration. And the users column, it has also a password now. Now let's execute the insert.py. As you see, it will insert only one line. Okay, and as we have it, let's check what is in the table. And tada, we successfully inserted a row into our table. What if you made a mistake or need to roll back to a previous state? Alembic makes it really easy for you. First, you can view your migration history with Alembic history. As you see, we have two migrations. First, we created the initial user table, then we added the password to user. All right, this shows the unique IDs, our migrations, and their messages. To revert the last migration, we can use Alembic downgrade -1. And as you see, if I refresh the table, the last column is just gone. And I refresh the table, the password column is just gone. To bring it back, run Alembic upgrade head again. And if we refresh the table, we have the password, but it is null because we didn't add anything to that. While Autogenerate is fantastic for most schema changes, it is not perfect. It might not detect things like changing the on-delete behavior of a foreign key, or if you rename a column, it might generate a dropped column, an add column, instead of an alter column. In such cases, you will need to create an empty migration and manually add the op alter column or op rename table or the op methods provided or the other op methods provided by Alembic. To create an empty migration, just run Alembic revision my manual change. Let's check the migration file which was generated, and as you see, the upgrade and downgrade are completely empty. Let's do some silly changes. For demonstrating purposes, I'm just gonna do some really silly changes. It is not a real world stuff, but you get the idea. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna execute update user set password no password, where password is null. And in the downgrade process, what I'm gonna do, I will do some sort of revert operation. I'm gonna update password, the users table, set the password to empty string where password is not null. And for that, we just created our first handmade, brand new manual migrations. To recap, Alembic is your best friend for managing database schema changes with SQLAlchemy. Here are the main steps. First, you have to initialize Alembic init migrations. You have to configure alembic.ini and env.py. You have to point your database and base metadata. Then you can generate migrations with Alembic revision -m with the message. And if you use Autogenerate for automatic detection or use Alembic revision, your message for manual control. You can apply migrations with Alembic upgrade head. You can revert migrations with Alembic downgrade -1 or a specific version. And with Alembic history, you can check the history of the executed migration files. Always remember, test your migrations thoroughly, especially the downgrade parts, before deploying to production. Alembic makes the process robust and repeatable, saving you from countless headaches. Alright, so that's all for today's deep dive into Alembic and SQLAlchemy. I hope this tutorial empowers you to manage your database migrations like a true DataNinja. If you found this video helpful, smash that like button, subscribe to DataNinja channel for more awesome Python and data content, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. If you have any questions or want to share your own Alembic tips, drop them in the comments below. Until next time, keep coding, keep learning, and stay sharp. Ciao.